We used combination gauge in previous video, and whilst I quickly discussed round it of how we were setting it up for that little project, I thought I'd do a little separate video of just more in depth. So what we've got is our combination gauge. The reason it's called combination gauge is we have a fixed pin this side, and that's for marking, as in a marking gauge. That side we have two pins, and that is for mortices. So two purposes, it's combination gauge. This particular tool, as I said, we've got top pin there for our mortices and a lower pin, or you can refer to them as a spur, that opens up, and we can set that to the width of our chisel or mortise. That's fixed onto our stem, and we have stock that slides up and down it. On this particular one, as I said, we have a thumb screw, which if we turn clockwise, closes it, anti-clockwise, we open it. The stock is locked in place with locking screw just by finger tight, clockwise, and that would be set, for example, for marking gauge. This has a couple of brass strips in. Better quality ones have, they don't wear as quickly and last a lot longer. So that's the basic components of your combination gauge. Now, people tend to really struggle with these, and I've seen a lot of people start to use them and then grow to dislike them because they become awkward to use, they don't get the best results. And the key thing with this tool is to be gentle using it. And it's a case of, you're not going to make one mark, run down with it, and it's going to give you that mark. You may need to make 2 or 3 strokes, but that's the key. Patience, and go very slow and steady. So what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to quickly set this up as if we are going to be doing, for example, a corner halving. So I want to find centering this timber. Now, we can do a couple of things. What we can do is, we can measure our timber, split it in half, put our pin on the mark, and close our stock up. But with this timber, if we measure it, it's about 31.5 millimeters. So then you've got to try and put your pencil somewhere in between, which you're not going to get it perfect just by tape measuring a pencil or a steel ruler and a pencil. So one method that I like to do is, I take my thumb and we put it on the back of the stem. I put my index finger and we just pinch there with a grip. So, and we need that to be just behind the stock. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to guess where centre is. And anybody who's been in my workshop knows I normally guess dead centre first time, every time. So I am, this time, to show you how it works, purposefully guessing off centre. And all I've done is I've just rolled it forward, just to get a little mark. And now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to turn my timber end for end. So I was on this side, I'm now on this side, and I'm again going to roll. Now what I've got is, I've now got 2 pin marks. That pin mark is referenced off this side, that pin mark is referenced off this side. So what I'm going to do now is, I'm going to just slacken off, and I'm going to just now put my spur in the middle there. And you've noticed what I've done is, as I said to you, index finger and thumb, and they're just gently pushing this stock tight against the edge of my timber. Now I'm going to lift that up, turn the timber end for end, and if you notice, now I am dead centre. It doesn't matter what the width of timber is. I don't need to know what it is. All I need to know is that I'm centre. And I actually prefer that method rather than measuring, because I'd still have to finish with that method to make sure I'm accurate. So I'm just removing a step. So there is my parallel line. If you notice, I've got 3 fingers at the bottom. My thumb and my index finger are on the side of the stock. I'm not gripping it, I'm not twisting tight, I'm just gently holding it. And all we do is we put it at about a 45-degree angle. And all we do is, now you can see, because of the grain, so the sweeping grain there, you can just see it's starting to rag. So all we do is we just take it very slowly. Now if you're starting off, open the vise, because what that does is we can then use our other hand and we can put our thumb and index finger on the side, and that gives us a little bit more of an advantage, because we can pull it across. So that would be literally like that. You don't need lots of pressure. What people tend to do, and this is where people struggle, is that's the angle I should have. So you can see I'm at an angle, my pin isn't dead straight. Now if I did put my, so that's how I should have it. The error is people try and run it so it's at 90 degrees. What I tend to do is it cuts quite quick, and if you can see there how deep that gauge mark is compared to just a nice gentle one there, and it starts to gouge, because you can see the further down the pin you go, the wider it is. So you are gouging rather than gauging. So that's just one method for setting up. That's the preferred method I like for setting up for gauging, and that now would allow me, if I had to put a gauge line down, a lot of timber, and I'm putting a rebate on, for example, I can go to every piece of timber and they're all going to be the same set distance. So we have to make sure that we look after these, we put them well above our bench, we don't leave them close to the edge. As soon as we knock them off and they fall on the floor, or you bump or bang them, they now then have to be reset. This one, again, that will set exactly the same, just a slightly cheaper version, but again, it's still a stem, a stock, and a pin, and we can just move up. Same process. With the 2 pins, that is if we want to split our timber. Instead of being in 2, we want to split it into 3. So we would be 1, 2, 3. So I'm just going to use this mortise chisel I've got here. It's approximately about right size for that piece of timber if we were splitting it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to wind that thumb screw clockwise till the tip of my chisel just fits in between the pins, which it does there. So we can see it just fits in between the pins very nicely. So that now, that movable pin or spur is fixed unless I turn again or drop or catch. The advantage with this type of combination gauge is I can now come across, and we use the same method. I address the timber, I look and roll it forward, I slide up. Now what I tend to do on these is then come round and use my finger and my thumb just to hold it, just to nip that screw up. Roll it forward. Remember, we're not trying to put big pinholes in. We only need just reference marks. So if I now put that on there, and let's just double check that. So I can see on there that I'm just slightly off. So I'm going to come back to this side. I'm just going to gently undo, and I'm going to move across, roll down, and now come from this side. Tighten that up. There we go. And we have one, two, three. Key thing when you're using this tool is, I always jokingly refer in the workshop, we're not building rocket ships, we're not going to the moon. We're creating products, parts from timber. Now, timber, as you can see on this piece here, as I'm trying to gauge up there, it's not quite sitting square. So that's probably just slightly off. But if I use the face side and a face edge mark, it doesn't matter, because everything is going to be marked from the face side, face edge. Now I'm going to show why we use the face side, face edge when I jump into a few basic joints, mortise internal, bridle joints, etc., and show what happens if we use a face side, face edge, and what happens if we don't. So as long as I reference off that face, I'm always, if I'm a 1/4 millimetre too far that way, I'm a 1/4 millimetre too far that way. It's the same. So that's setting that combination gauge up for marking gauge and combination gauge. This one is slightly a little bit different. If you've got one of these, this has got a little pin there to be able to manually push. Now, I'll be honest with you, I started off with one of these. I used one of these for years, and to be honest, I do actually find it a little bit easy to set, because I can put my chisel in and again, you've got to make sure your thumb doesn't move, nip it up and it's already set. Now I find that a lot quicker than using the thumb screw. But then that's easier to set in the sense of it locks and it doesn't move. This is, you have to be a little bit careful with this, and it's just a technique. So I'm just going to find where I've not actually rolled on there. So again, I'm going to guesstimate where centre is. Now this is where those spare, or the removable spare, has a potential to move when you're setting here. But if you're gentle and take your time, so I'm just going to pop that in there, and we can see I'm just slightly out. So what I'm going to do is come back from this side. I like to put my finger on there, and then I'm just going to roll it. Again, nip tight, nice and gentle. And we're now centre. So again, now I haven't marked that off following my face side face edge, but it was just a demonstrate of gauging down. So they're the two types of gauges that you're going to come across. Both equally as good, to be fair. Personal preference of with a thumb screw or using without. I used one of those for many years. Never had an issue. It is purely personal preference. So next video will be on how to make a simple centre line finder, and we'll also be doing videos on halving joints and bridle joints. Okay, catch you later.